Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I'm your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. And today, Q&A video. I'm going to answer some of the questions which you gentlemen have dropped into me. Now I very much encourage you to drop me any questions that you would seek my observations on. Clearly, it's only my view, it's only my subjective thoughts, but I'm always delighted to offer my point of view on anything that you'd like to send in. Drop it into the comments section, or you can send me an email via the email address you'll find in the About section on my main YouTube page. Now, the first question I have is from Sergey Kachin, who asks, short question here, could you please let me know when it is appropriate to wear a black pocket square? Nothing wrong with a black pocket square, but the only thing I would say when you're wearing black accessories of any kind is that you do run the risk of it looking a little bit like funerary wear. All right, so if you're wearing a black tie with maybe a dark suit, people may make the quite reasonable assumption that you're on your way to a funeral or there's been a loss in your family. And things like pocket squares, cravats in black, I'm not saying they run the same risk, but if they're worn in conjunction with something of that nature, it may give the impression that, you know, it is being worn in that sort of manner. The only other thing I would say about a black pocket square is you need to wear it with something else which has a suitable visual color contrast. So if you're wearing that black pocket square and you're wearing a charcoal grey suit, or maybe a navy blue suit, it's almost not going to be visible because there isn't sufficient contrast between the pocket square and the underlying garment to make it noticeable. Remember, the whole point of wearing a pocket square is so that it's noticeable. It's designed to be a little flash of colour in one's outfit. So I do have a couple of black pocket squares, which I do wear with, I've got a white tuxedo or an ivory tuxedo, which I wear in sort of tropical environments when I want to look my very best instead of black tie. And also if you've got sort of light beige, maybe summer wear. If you've got a linen, I've got a linen jacket, which I often wear, and a black pocket square would be appropriate with that because the color contrast would be very obvious. That's all I'm saying with black. Make sure it's not going to be mistaken for something that you're wearing for a funeral situation, or that there must be sufficient visual contrast so that it's even noticeable. My second question is Lycris Subruncanum. Sorry if I've butchered that name. He says, I've got a dilemma. Should I buy an Explorer two-tone or a Rolex Datejust Blue for my mother? I'm looking to buy second-hand. The Explorer for about list price, for the Datejust about £1,000 or dollars more. Please help me. Good question. I mean, you can't go wrong because the Explorer 1 and the Rolex Datejust are two superb watches. And I'm making the assumption here that they both share the size of 36 millimeters. I think that's a great size for a female as well, as you're intending to buy for your mother. The 36 has become, where it was classically a man's size, now I think it's far more universal. And of course, women can wear any size they wish, so can men. So I wouldn't let the 36 millimeter size be a bar to any lady because it's not going to seem outlandishly big on the wrist. Of the two watches, the Explorer is obviously a field watch. Rolex's classic field watch, which has spawned, an entire generation of field watches of a similar nature. Simple piece. In this case, you say it's the two-tone, so it's got gold on it. Makes it a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more formal, one might say, because gold often makes things more interesting on the eye. But it's core element of that watch, it just tells the time. No date, simple dial, just black dial with predominantly white lettering on it to look at, which is very easy on the eye, easy to read, classically elegant. The Datejust, a little bit different. With the Datejust, if you've got a Jubilee bracelet with the fluted bezel, you've got a lot more visual interest. With a blue dial, I own a blue dial Datejust myself, very attractive watch. What I would say of those two choices, and I would repeat again, you can't go wrong. Both will be an excellent purchase. But what you get with the Datejust is entirely the same capability of the Explorer, but with the versatility of a watch, which could be worn, in more formal situations. So, a Datejust with a fluted bezel is quite flashy. It can be worn with a suit. It can be worn, if you're a lady, maybe in more formal situations. So my money, if I was buying one or the other, and I should say, being as I own both, I feel quite well qualified to answer this question. I think my money would be on the Datejust, simply because more flexible piece. Okay, next question from Kevin Reardon. What part of the military did you serve in? And has that helped you become the chap that you are? Well, that's a really good question. And it's something which I reflect on quite a lot in my life. I was in the Royal Air Force. So I joined the RAF in 1987 and left in 1997. So I served about a decade, active duty, regular military service. And I served overseas for about 50% of my military service. I served in Germany and Belgium, and I was obviously detached to other parts around Europe as well. Went to Canada for a while. What the military did for me was expand my horizons on life. I was a 17-year-old boy, still legally a child, under the age of 18. My mother had to sign the enlistment paperwork for me as my legal guardian, obviously. And it took a young boy who had a sheltered life from a small sort of town in the south of Wales in the United Kingdom and exposed me to the world. It made me understand how to look after myself. I had to learn from a very fast learning curve things like how to iron my own clothing, how to polish my shoes, how the importance of order and tidiness fits well into a life, and how it makes your life a lot easier. Now, of course, you don't relish those parts of the training. Nobody enjoys polishing one's boots and ironing one's clothing. But it learns or teaches you a very important lesson. The other things it taught me were things like interacting with other people. So all of a sudden, I was exposed to people from all over my country. People from Scotland, from Northern Ireland, from all over England, different parts of the country, different accents, different mannerisms, different cultural background. And I realized that my little part of the world was just that, quite a little part of the world. And I soon broadened my horizons. And then when I left my country to live abroad, it really exposed me to more things. Living in countries where my language wasn't spoken. I had to learn the elements of other languages. I had to learn how their cultures operated and interacted with my own. So from that point of view, it taught me how to look after myself, and it taught me how to mix with other people. It did teach me a sense of duty. It did teach me a sense of patriotism. These things come hand in glove with military service. Obviously, you're working and living alongside similar people who share the same ideology, the same thought processes as you, and you're striving towards a common purpose. And our common purpose was the protection and well-being of our nation. So, a very noble aspiration. I know people out there will have different views. They will say if you join the military, you're indoctrinated into a government mindset. I wouldn't say that at all. I've chosen my ideology in life based on lots of experience, lots of reading, lots of interacting with people from different parts of the world, different mindsets. And the military just exposed me to a much larger sort of gene pool of people to interact with. And it made my life a much richer place. And it absolutely made me the man that I am today. And I go far as to say I'm a father of a son. I would have no hesitation if my son said to me, I want to join the military. I would say, go ahead, son. Let it enlighten you and broaden your horizons. My father was a soldier, and his advice to me when I was in that same position, he said, do it. Get out there. It'll make you a man. It'll teach you a bit about life, which will better the further element, the future of your life. Absolutely still my mindset. Okay, so interesting question here from TJ with an AK. Do you feel clothing procurement should be spread out, i.e. time to enjoy each outfit, leaving room in the wardrobe for sartorial shopping experiences, or is it okay to just buy a bulk of timeless style items on eBay within a year and be set up for life? Well, that's a really good question. And I think I get what you mean. You know, when people get into classic dressing, you know, men's style, there is a temptation. You think, oh my goodness me, I really don't have what I need to dress well in the wardrobe. So you go out and you splurge, and you will buy maybe, you know, instead of jeans, you'll be buying chinos, grey flannel slacks, you'll buy a blazer, you'll buy tweed jackets, you might buy a few suits, you might be looking for overcoats. All at once. You're just going, you know, throw it all at the wall in the hope that a few of these items will be exactly what you need. I would go along with what you've said in the first instance here. I think clothing procurement should be spread out, and you shouldn't try and buy everything all at once. If you're just getting into men's style, buy some of the basics, all right? So swap over from wearing jeans to chinos, or wear grey flannel slacks as your more formal clothing. Maybe buy a blazer, or maybe buy a tweed jacket. Learn about how those things work for you, how they will fit into your life, and see if it's a good fit. It may not be. It may be something that you feel after a while, do you know what, I can't live with this. I just feel too much of a, you know, sticking out like a sore thumb in a group of people. It's not for me. I would rather go back to my sort of anonymous, ordinary style dressing. So my advice would be, take it slow and steady, and you will also find the best bargains there. Because for me, you know, when I learn more about men's style, I will find an item which I think, do you know what? I don't have that type of overcoat or that type of jacket in my collection. There are things which I don't have. You know, I don't have a double-breasted blazer, which I would like to own. I don't own a double-breasted overcoat. You know, full-length overcoat, which I would like to own. These are things on my long-term wish list. And every so often, I will do an eBay search. And if I see something which fits my criteria in my correct size, which I think will work for me, that's when I will make that leap. I wouldn't sort of make myself a shopping list of 20 items and attempt to go and try and find them all. It would be overwhelming. The chances are you'd make a few mistakes along the way. Do it slowly, enjoy the experience. You know, you don't have to leap before you've really learned the whole experience. So take your time, enjoy the items that you get as you get them, and you will learn from each purchase. And that's how you build that classic, elegant and timeless wardrobe. But if you find yourself being offered many items, you know, say maybe a relative has decided to pass on their wardrobe to you, either through death or whatever, and they all are exactly what you're looking for. Maybe they've got a classic wardrobe. Yeah, if something falls into your lap like that, good luck to you. But for me, I buy a small number of items, slowly but surely, having done the research, sort out the things exactly that I want, and then I make the purchase then. Just the way I do it. Okay, moving on. So, question from Nina, regular contributor to the channel and supporter. Thanks for the question. I want to ask you if it's a cliche to wear a grenadine tie with a tweed coat. Well, grenadine is essentially a style of woven tie. Traditionally, in this modern era, we think of it as silk, right? So raw silk, often grenadine, but it's the weave which the term grenadine comes from. And grenadine is kind of a light weave, and more often than not, when we see grenadine ties, they tend to be in a solid colour, because it's not about the pattern with a grenadine tie, it's about the texture. That is the visual interest. And you will find, you know, woven grenadine ties often worn by very smart, classically elegant gentlemen. I've got a few in my own collection, some in silk, some in man-made fibres, I'm guilty to say, because I can't afford that many silk items. So I have to get them as and when I find them. But grenadine, I think, is a very attractive style of tie. It is, as I say, often seen in single colours, so no patterns generally. And yeah, typically worn in a 4-in-hand knot because they're quite thick normally. So it wouldn't suit maybe a Windsor or a half Windsor. But yeah, I rather do like them. They are very versatile. I think one of the things with a grenadine tie I do like, because of the weave or the woven nature, is they can be worn in informal situations. So you'll often see me wearing a grenadine or a woven tie in my summer clothing. So when I'm wearing a linen jacket, I think the visual interest of the texture of the grenadine tie adds something to the outfit. But also, it is versatile. It can be worn with more formal clothing. And when we look back to that classic, smartest of all, not real people, but James Bond, the icon of men's style. All of the James Bond characters have worn grenadine ties over the years. Many have been produced and provided by some of the most famous companies like Turnbull and Asser for the actors who play the role. The ones which really I recall most prolifically are the ones worn by Sean Connery during his era as James Bond, clearly grenadine ties, and that's where you see that mix of the texture of the tie and that weave with the classic suits. So yeah, definitely. Very good ties to own, very flexible, can be worn in many situations, and build a nice little collection of them. Okay, so next question from Josh Rubinton. Sorry if I've got that wrong. I do have a minor question for you. I'm in the market for a new casual jacket and I've always liked the navy jacket you wear in occasional videos that you make. It appears to be a Harrington style jacket. Is it a Barracuda G9 by any chance? Well, unfortunately it isn't. Mine is from a company called Jaeger, which is no longer in existence. Jaeger was a men's sort of mid-range tailors, off-the-rack tailors, which went bust a few years ago. And I actually have a lot of items from their former range because I rather like their clothing at their price point. And the jacket which you talk about, I own two, one in a beige colour and one in a navy blue. And they are a derivative, a replica, if you will, of the famous G9 jacket from Barracuda. The G9 is a waist-length sort of blouson jacket which was created by Barracuda, English company, way back in 1937 as a golfing jacket. I believe that's what the G stands for, golf, in the G9 name. And it's become a really iconic jacket, often worn by subcultures like the mods and things like that, but still a very wearable and flexible jacket in the modern era. Unfortunately, because of their iconic status and their very high quality, made in England, current models are about £340 British, available in a wide range of colours. But if you are thinking about making the leap into a Harrington style jacket, a blouson jacket, the Barracuda G9, you will not go wrong. One day I hope to own one when I am in a financial situation to make that sort of investment. So, final question is from Chris Blanc, who says, what is your take on pocket watches? Too much or extra conservative? Pocket watches. I don't own one. Probably the shortest answer I could give. The reason why I don't own one is because I think pocket watches belong to a different era. Obviously, people started wearing wrist watches over pocket watches in the early 19th century. I believe they'd sort of fully entrenched themselves by the First World War because of practicality. Of course, when you wear a pocket watch, it has to be stored somewhere about your person. Now, less and less people wear suits. Less and less people who wear suits will wear a three-piece suit. So you typically aren't wearing a waistcoat. And a waistcoat is the perfect place for your pocket square to go into the small pocket at the waist. And as people's clothing habits have changed, obviously with nobody wearing waistcoats, it becomes less practical to carry a pocket watch. Of course, you could wear one in your breast pocket with the chain going to the sort of lapel buttonhole, but for me, it looks a little eccentric, it looks a little contrived, it looks like you're trying a bit too hard. So I think that's why we've seen the pocket watch become less and less an item worn by gentlemen. I don't own one. I can't ever see myself owning one for those obvious reasons. That is not to say that if you're a fan, and they fit into your lifestyle, if you have the ability to wear it, with your waistcoat, or you like wearing it in a breast pocket, nothing wrong with that at all. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed that Q&A today. As I say, if you've got any questions for me, drop them into the comment section, send me an email. I would be absolutely delighted to help you with my observations on any topic at all. Okay, so until the next time, take care, and I will see you again very soon.